Okay. As soon as I see we're streaming on YouTube, I'll close the window and I'll actually be able to see all you guys. And I think we're almost there. What happens if you ever stream to a video, you have to open YouTube, sign in, set up the what the video should be called, etc. And all that time, of course, I'm not looking at the screen on the Zoom, but it's now live, so we can begin. Um, hey, over halfway through the month. Yesterday was payday. Hopefully, you all got some nice commission checks yesterday. Of course, we have bonuses every day that go out, but our monthly payments go out on the 15th of each month for the residuals. So hopefully, you are one of the people that already is receiving that. And of course, as you get customers, you become qualified to get paid on more of your team. So if you're taking advantage of the team, then that helps you. So what I want to talk about though is a couple of things. Number one, payment processing pro tips here. Number one, don't forget dual pricing. Now the regulations um, have been made more stringent. Where if you're going to do dual pricing or cash discount or anything that where we pass the fees on to the customer, surcharging is illegal in many states. That just means adding a fee and just saying credit card fee surcharge, and you can't charge it on debit cards. So most people's equipment isn't set up to discern between a credit card and a debit, so they're violating that, and there's many states that don't allow it. So we don't market surcharging at all. Number one, because it's not compliant in many states. Number two, because it's they need to be able to discern between credit card and debit card. Um, so we just stay away from that. Dual pricing does the same thing, but you can pass it to credit or debit. And dual pricing just has a card price, not credit card price and cash price, because cards have service fees and you don't get the money for a couple days, etc. So card price, cash price. But the difference is the regulations used to allow you to advertise the cash price on your menus and pricing boards as long as you showed both prices at checkout with dual pricing. Cash discount, you could never show the cash price. You always had to show the card price. And then you could discount it at checkout. Dual pricing came along and said, hey, let's present both at checkout. Then you can keep the cash price up there on the menu boards and present both at checkout. Then they get why they're paying more. But now it's saying, no, you got to, if you're only advertising one price, you have to advertise the card price. And that doesn't matter whether you're dual pricing, cash discounting, the card price must be showing on all the menu items. Okay. Now, you'll notice it on gas stations. For a while, they were showing two prices, cash credit, but you need a big sign for that, right? So now they pretty much just show one price and it's the card price. It's a standard. It's going to be a phase out period where everyone's just going to show their card price or show both prices. I think most will show both prices. Um, that's what I would do if I had a business running and charging, for coffee or donuts or whatever. And that's what we're doing in the businesses where we're a part of it. Now, it just so happens the three businesses that I have in Florida where I'm a partner where we do this, they were all smoked by the hurricanes, literally swept out to sea. One of our coolers was found on an island north of Tampa, and we're, 30 miles south of Tampa. So I mean it's like, and I don't mean a cooler. I mean a giant drink cooler that you get from Coca-Cola, big thing was found way up there on an island. So it just shows what those hurricanes did, but they're still just now getting approvals to rebuild. So you can imagine what that's done to business owners. So I don't have dual pricing yet up on our menus, but we will once we're open again. But the point is you got to show both prices, and that's what we recommend. Now, one of the things I want to talk about though today is, and don't forget, a couple weeks ago we talked about how much you earn. So I wanted to do some highlights here. Number one, new regulations got to show both prices or show the card price if you're only showing one. Can't show the cash price. Okay, that's number one. Surcharging, don't even ever do it. Do cash discount or dual pricing. We say dual pricing. It's much better for the customer, the optics when they check out. That's number one. Number two, we've got all the equipment that can do this, right? Number three, we've got the commissions. We did an event a few days ago, a few weeks ago, I should say, on how bonus revenue works and how residual revenue works. Residual revenue is what you earn on payment processing and how you climb that ladder. That was maybe last week. A couple weeks before that, we did a video on does dual pricing always cover their fees? Well, it doesn't always cover the fees because they all have basic monthly fees they got to have. And then you've got extra fees, right? And based on transactions. So if they don't do enough transactions, 4% of a $10 transaction isn't going to cover their monthly fee. They only charge 40 cents. right? Actually, 4 cents. So, there's got to be a little bit more. No, 40. They got to do enough transactions to cover their base monthly fees. So watch that if you don't understand it. It was a few weeks ago. And does dual pricing cover all their fees? So that's a recap of the last month. Now, what I want to talk about is the sales process. In sales, you're solving, right? You're solving. So, as you're solving, you're not pitching something, you're solving something. And what is the pain point of a business owner right now that you're solving? What do you think the pain point is? Well, some people, they got old, outdated equipment. So you're going to get them the latest, coolest, and they like that brand on their counter. They want that little tablet they can spin around. And sometimes it's the POS system. Of course, because they want the latest and greatest technology. It just doesn't look right on their counter to have some old little card reader or something. They just don't feel good about it. But usually those people have already switched out of that. So sometimes that's a pain point, but usually not. What do you think the pain points are that you're dealing with payment processing? Obviously the fees. So there's fees, customer service, and delay to get money. Those are the three biggest things, and the fees being number one. Okay. So fees, customer service, talking to someone, getting help when you have an issue, updating your equipment, finding a person, and then the speed of getting the deposits. All right. So those are the three biggest pain points in payment processing. So how do you solve fees? Well, let's say they're not interested in dual pricing. They're not interested in having their fees waived. Can you still solve their pain point of fees? Yeah, you can lower them about 20% a year just by modifying who their processor is. Now, that's not going to take their fee away, but it does make their fee less. So that's standard processing with the savings. On average, we save about 20% off what they're doing, which is about 3 months of payment processing will get covered for them. Okay, so 20 to 25%. So that's the first way. But the real way that we recommend all of you, and which helps you financially most and helps them financially most, is dual pricing. Because then, as long as they're doing more than 10, 15,000 a month, that extra 4% they're adding is generally going to cover all their fixed costs, and then they get all their fees covered. So it'll become free. They won't have a fee anymore. So that's the pain point you're solving. Now, if you're going in with the mentality, but that's going to cause a new pain called customer complaints, I understand, because that was my first thought. So I know exactly how you feel. I did feel the same way. But what I found was, as a proprietor, we got no complaints about it, but we saved about $3,000 a month. So to save $36,000 a year in credit card fees from one location, I found that that's worth having one or two times. Someone might say, "What's this?" And we didn't get any complaints. We never had someone say, "I don't want the product now. You're marking it up for credit card. That's ridiculous." We had, I think, two people mention what it is in the first year, and that's it because it was new. Now everyone knows what it is. Everyone has seen it already. You've seen it all over the place already. So nobody questions it. They may not inside. They may go, I don't know why they're charging us. I mean, giving them the business. It's a convenience to use the card because they don't understand. You have to pay fees. They don't understand. You don't get the money for 2 days. You got to pay for more product now. They don't. Sometimes you get the money next day. Depends on your processor, but we obviously get it next day funding, which is good. So there's, they don't, but the one pain of fees sometimes becomes so large in the business owner because they are not large enough. The pain of complaints is larger. You know, the pain of staying in a job for the income you'll stay in because the pain of losing that income and what your life would be like without that income keeps you in a job you don't like, right? So when they say that when the pain of leaving becomes less than the pain of staying, you leave. Well, the same thing with this. When the pain of the fees is higher than the pain of potential complaints, they'll never switch off dual pricing. So what we have to do is help educate them on that people don't complain about this. And the fee savings, if it's how much do you think you pay in fees a month, sir, ma'am? I don't know, about $2,000 a month. So 24 grand a year, we're talking about saving you. What would 24 grand a year do for you? Yeah, but I don't want people complaining and think I'm one of those businesses that's greedy taking care. I know how you feel felt found. I felt the same way. In fact, the owner of our company, we launched dual pricing because he used it in his own business and saw that they didn't get complaints. And we've got another franchise who put it in 4 locations to test it first, got 0 complaints. All of them saved $2,000 to $3,000 a month, all locations. So now they're rolling it out to every business, and every business we've signed up to dual pricing, we've never had one move back to standard. Now we always offer that you can move back to standard at any time. So it's no risk. But if you don't do it, you're going to keep paying 2 grand a month. We might be able to get that down to 1,500, but it's still, you're talking about $18,000 a year. You're not taking into your home or into your business. So we're here because that's painful to the average business owner, these fees. We want to make those fees no longer painful. And it's real simple with dual pricing. It's completely compliant. We only do it in a compliant way, and we'll save you a bunch of money. Just take that. Does that help you understand the pain? Now, I know most people watch this in recording. They're not watching it live here. And maybe you'll look at this 6 months from now. This is record January 16th. This is compliant as of today, right? There's always improvements. And if it ever it changes, we'll update it. But the long and short of it is we believe the industry, Visa and all the others, is moving to not only they've already allowed this, but they're no longer fighting it. They're they're no longer trying to stop it because they have now the dual price where they provide both or provide card. As long as you're doing that, we're good. Well, you guys can imagine why, because every time someone uses a card and sees that, if they ever do complain or say, what's this? The owner says, hey, we got to get these fees covered. Visa charges us a lot of money. Who looks good in that case? Visa? No. Does the business owner look good? They don't look bad. They're being transparent and honest, and everyone's doing it now. So this is accurate. I don't think it's going to revert back where you don't have to put the card price. If one day you can put the cash price on your menus, we'll tell you. Of course, we'll tell you. But right now, you have to put both prices, which is what we recommend. Show both. Okay. But the whole point is you're solving the pain. You're not making a commission. If you solve that pain point and you hold their hand through the process, and it may take 6 weeks to get them live, it may only take 6 days to get them live, but you hold their hand through the process, the experts take care of it. You just get them to go to your website, fill out that form. The experts take care of it. You'll be in good hands. So that's all I wanted to talk about today. Continue to sales, but now how does the rubber meet the road? I would say right now, if you can start telling yourself every time you use a card, keep the receipt and reach out to the owner. Right now might not be the right time, but you can say, hey, I'm just giving you a call. I had soup at your place yesterday, and I noticed on the credit card receipt when I used it, you're not using dual pricing right now. You're paying all the fees. That opens up a conversation. First of all, you're a customer. That's called canvassing as a customer. So anytime you get a receipt, look at it and see if there's a card price and cash price or a surcharge. If they're surcharging, you may want to know they could be violating rules because you used the debit card and they added a surcharge. Can't do that. Or that they may be in a non-compliant state. But the bottom line is, if they're doing dual pricing or cash discounting already, if they're not compliant, if they're showing their cash price on their menus, you become a pro. You become an expert. Now, you don't judge them. You can say, hey, there's been some updates. You now have to show the card price. I just want to help you out. And we're pros of this. We only look at this in a compliant way first. We want to take care of our customers first. Has your current agent already called you and said, hey, you got to switch to card price? Okay, maybe they don't know yet. So I wouldn't say that they're purposely not being there for you, but that is the new rules. So you need to change all your menus to be your card price. Right. Well, I can't do that this fast. Okay, well, then you need to have a lower cash price at checkout because that needs to be a card price. So we got to make some changes, and I'm here to help. I'm happy to help you. So you can become the solver of a pain point. Now, sometimes you have to tell them about the pain point, like they're not compliant, and you got to do it in a polite way. And we talked about that last week, how to do that. But I'm at 15 minutes. The last update is I've been telling you about some new processors going live, and we're working on some back office systems, and we're near ready to go with that. So we'll have a nice product for under 10K. We do already, but it doesn't yet match or beat Square. The new product we'll have will match or beat Square under 10K. Right now, under 10K, we say Square is hard to beat because they're really not a processor. Square is not a processor. Square is a company that allows its processor to be used by a lot of small businesses. Its own processing statement is used by a lot of businesses. So you're not really even dealing with Visa, you're dealing with Square company. It's like if I took my David Allen Capital credit card reader and said, all of you can use this, and I've got to deal with my processor that allows it. And now our sales is growing and growing and growing, and we're fighting our fees down. And I'm taking that fee and upping it, marking it up for you. I charge you monthly fees and I get you all kinds of neat stuff. But all in all, my one company called Square keeps growing and growing and growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. That's all it is. So you're always at risk because you're never really dealing with the processor. Something happens to Square, all those millions of customers, boom, will be shut off like this. Now, I don't see anything happening to Square, but that means you're not in control. You can't call the processor and you can only call Square and you're at their beckoning call. So we want you dealing directly with the processors, not the other company. And they overcharge if you're once you get over 6-7 grand, they're charging more than anybody. You're paying more than every other processor out there once you're at 6-7 grand. So, but we want to have a product that can meet their pricing, but yet when you go up, we can move you to lower pricing. That's the whole value of it. That hopefully will go live this month. We're focusing on the larger clients first, some modifications there, and then we're going to move to the smaller clients. Right now, we already have a wizard for the smaller clients, pretty darn good with NMI. So that update will be coming. That's all I have for you right now. Let's go to what questions you may have. Anyone have any questions at all? Let me check got to put my readers on to see. Jose's got his hand up. Go ahead, Jose, and I'll read the chats.
Good morning.
Good
Uh,
morning.
so I come across a restaurant owner. He says, Jose, I just bought 200 brand new menus.
Yep.
And now you're telling me if I want to do dual pricing, I'm going to have to include the credit card price on there as well. How do I
Or
overcome
at
that?
the credit card price. Yeah. That either
How would
has, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, how would I overcome that to take that negativeness away from him?
Well, first of all, authenticity. Now, has he signed up with you already, or is this someone
No,
considered?
no, no,
Okay.
no.
Okay. All right. I was going to say, well, we need to tell him authentically. We got to tell him he's got to make some updates to his menus, or have a cash price that's lower than than what's showing there. So that is the card price. Um, how much did you say he spent?
No, I'm saying this is just theoretical.
Oh,
Guys
okay.
got
Okay.
two,
Well,
200 brand new menus.
yeah, 200 brand new menus. Let's say he paid $200 for those, maybe $300. Say, I understand. I think we need to reprint some menus because the amount you're going to save, you spent those, you're going to spend more than, if you got 200 menus, how much you doing in sales and what are you paying in fees a month? I'm paying, let's say he's paying $2,500 a month in fees. Okay, well, if we can get those fees down to zero, do you mind spending another 2,500 for, new menus? I mean, you could send it right to the same printer. All you got to do is change all the prices. So I would discuss, yeah, that's a problem. It is a problem, but it's a very small problem compared to the savings. And every company, whether they just paid 250 for menus or paid 250 6 months ago, if they got perfectly good menus, why do I want to replace them? Nobody wants to do that. The good news is a lot of the pricing boards are, they can change them quickly, and a lot of the menus are digital, but they could put stickers over each one. I don't think people necessarily want to do that, but they could, while they're waiting for them to arrive, put pricing stickers over each one. They could put a price next to it, card price and sticker. Some people have been able to take their menus and reprint right on them, depends on how they're printed, um, and add to the menu new printing. But the reality is, menus, I mean, if they got nice leather bound menus where those insert cards are, they're nice fine steak restaurant or something, and those menu cards are going to cost them $3 a menu and they're going to have to spend 1,200 bucks. I get it. It's a real expense, but they're also spending 3,000 a month on fees right now. or 5 or 7 or 8. So it won't be that big of a thing. Again, the pain point is the fees. If you're going to get rid of the fees, just like what if they need a new card reader? What if their equipment is old and outdated and antiquated and can't do dual pricing and we got to get them a new POS system that's going to cost them $700? They're okay with it because they're saving $4 grand a month. So they'll buy a new POS. I mean, we got kids who are 15 buying new cell phones because it's got a better camera and they're spending $1,200 for it. So business owners aren't afraid to spend 700 for a new POS or 200 or 500, even 2,000 because they're going to save 50,000 a year, right? So um, that's all I would say is talk about the pain point, the benefit of the pain point, and solutions to overcome the small costs they've got.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I should have thought of that. Appreciate
Well,
you.
no, I'm glad you asked because let's be real. Unless we're a business owner doing these and dealing with these, they're mysteries at first. When they first come up, it is a mystery. I got to tell you, when I was talking to my partners back in 2015 about going to dual pricing, they rejected it completely. They're like, no. In fact, the way we got them to do it is I said, I'm not investing more money unless you switch to my processing and go to dual pricing, or I'm not doing it. And so it was really, now this is 2015 when no one was doing it. I mean, it's 9 years ago, right? So, or 2017, so 7 years ago. That's the only reason they agreed to it. And is because of that. Now they're like, we got to get that. We've opened more locations. No discussion at all. Dual pricing. It's not even a discussion. But so sometimes if you're not going through it, you think the problem of complaints is bigger than it is. And you also, if you don't own a business, you may think the transitional cost is too high for them. No, no, no. The fees are too high for them. Don't worry about let's say the transitional cost is $5 grand. If they had to spend $5 grand to move from their current process to the next one, their grocery store or something, and they got a bunch of new equipment they got to buy, and they got to train people on it. Now you're up to $5 grand plus inefficiencies for a couple of weeks. That's a real problem, right? Unless you own that grocery store and you're spending $400,000 a year on credit card processing. Then you're like, I don't care if it's inefficient and the workers are going to be upset and not know how to do something for a week. But it's all turnkey and there's nothing new to you learn anyway. I mean, maybe there's a new scan, something. We're talking about big businesses, but the average restaurant out there's nothing new to you learn. Sometimes they have new menus in their new screens because they had to get new equipment and they got new screens and they got to navigate around. Like when you get your first software download on your phone, you go, what's new on Apple today? And oh wow, I gotta to take a picture. I can do this now. Oh wow, look at that. My emails are showing up like this now. Wow. And it's a little learning curve, right? But when you own the business, learning curves are part of business when it's going to save you a bunch of money, right? When we're switching CRMs right now at David Allen Capital from Monday to Zoho because it's going to save us $7,200 a year. I don't care that there's a learning curve where everyone's got to figure out how to load the customer data again differently. And of course, I'm empathetic and sympathetic, and Tyler's been working on it for months to make it so that it feels just like our old CRM. But we're going to make the switch because if it's saving you $7 grand a year, that's just stupid not to, right? I mean, that's real. So, and that's only $7 grand a year, not $7 grand a month in fees. And I want you all to think, it's just like if I came to you and said, hey, you have Comcast? I can get you Comcast, but it's called Xfinity instead of Comcast. Or I can get you AT&T cable. And look, there's 12 more channels and it's got better speed on the internet. And it's saving you $3,000 a year. You're like, I got to get new boxes. I got to reconnect. I got it in my wall on my TV. You're like, hey, I'll deal with it one time. And that's what it is to be a business owner. When you show them 1,000, because here's how a business owner thinks. Ask McGuire when we talk about something that costs us $99. It doesn't cost me $99. It costs me, how much funding do we have to do and pay commissions? And what do we make on that to cover $99? We're only making about, on average, about a half to 3/4% of the funding. That's about what we're clearing on average. You guys are clearing a lot more. We're clearing about a half to 3/4 to run all the operations and earn a profit. Half to 3/4%. So a $99, if it's 1%, then you'd need $1,000 funding because it's a half to a quarter, half to three quarters. In fact, I'd say it's a half more often than not because a lot of the fundings are smaller. 0.5%, and we inflate bonus revenue on those basically, just so y'all know. 0.5%, you're talking about, to make 99 bucks. Well, 10 grand times 10% is 1,000 times 1% is 99. So you're talking about a $40,000 funding to cover a $99 monthly cost. That's how I look at $99. What's the production and sales we got to do to clear that 99? Because you do 5 grand in sales, you don't get $5,000. You got to pay for the donuts and coffee, and that costs you 40% of that 5,000. There's 2 grand gone. Now you got to pay the staff and the rent and the waste, because some of those donuts spoil and you throw them away. And right, so you get $5,000 does not equal $5,000. It usually equals about $600, right? Not even about $400, about 8%. About $400 is all the owner gets on 5 grand. And if you're telling them you can get them 3% more by giving them the fees, they go, wait a minute, $5,000 instead of getting 400, I'm getting 550. Wow. That's almost a 50% jump in my daily profit from 400 to 550. 50% would be 400 to 600. Wow. So give the business owners credit. Now, half of them don't understand finances the way some people do, but eventually they do. Eventually they go, wait a minute, I did 5,000 in sales. Why don't I still have 5 grand in my bank? It's not like a paycheck where you got 5 grand and you don't have to spend any of it. It's 5 grand, but all of it had cost. So fees kill businesses. Monthly fees, I'm looking at my monthly fees all the time. Like, what's this app for 39 bucks? And what's 39 equal? 20,000 in funding. Right? So it's a real client you need to cover that little $30 app charge. So, that's how a business owner thinks. So when you're talking about taking their gross profit from 4% to 7% because you got rid of their fees, you're almost doubling their profit, or their net profit, I should say. Or their net profit from 0 to 3% because you covered their fees. They're loving you. So lead with the pain point of how these fees kill you. And if someone says something like, I love to talk shop with business. I'm curious. So I love to talk to business owners about, what kind of gross profit are you making? That means after paying for the cost of goods, cost of the donuts and coffee, after paying the payroll, after paying the rent, after paying insurance, after paying blah, 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 blah. In the end of the day, if you did 100,000 in sales, what would you have left in the bank at the end of the month? It's usually 4 to 6%. That's it. 4 to 6 grand. And for some, because they're not doing 100,000 and they got fixed costs like rent and things, they're below zero. They don't have a profit margin yet. They're like, we're losing money. Remember, 6 out of 10 businesses you shop in are breaking even or losing money. 6 out of 10 are breaking even or losing money. If you can get them 3% of their sales added to their bank account each month because they don't have to pay that in fees, that is huge. That's a pain point. I'm breaking even and I'm working my tail 7 days a week at this restaurant. It's driving me bananas and I'm breaking even. I'm barely surviving. I was at a funeral the other day and I said to a guy I grew up with, I haven't seen in a long time, as a family friend, and he owns a pizza shop. I said, how's the pizza business going? And he's like, I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging in there. I think he's owned that restaurant 20 years. I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging in there. And it's a brand pizza name that you'd all know. And he's hanging in there. So I didn't talk then, we're at a funeral. I didn't talk to him about his payment processing dollars, but I've got it on my list. I got to follow up with him and talk about his payment processing dollars, because hanging in there can become, I'm starting to thrive a little bit. My profit went from 1% to 4%. That's 4 times as much profit, or 2% to 5%. That's times as much profit. Forget 100,000 in sales doesn't always equal much, but 4 or 5 grand. And if its sales are only 30,000, profit's probably zero. Unless it's a service business, there's no rent, no office to pay for. But if they're a restaurant and they're renting a building, you got to be doing, I know in our coffee shop, if we weren't, right now we're doing zero, right? But if in the coffee shop, if we weren't doing $46,000 a month, we were losing money. $46,000, do that. That's $1,200 a day in coffee, or you're losing money. That's with dual pricing. Now take the dual pricing and move that away. Now that 46,000 probably becomes more like 50, 55, 56,000. I don't know. just to break even in a coffee shop. The average coffee shop makes 14 to 15 grand profit a year. That is it. They're cozy, they're cool, they have cool fireplaces, real cool ambiance. Love the different this. They're charging so much. Yeah, and they're average making 15 grand a year only. 15 grand. If you can save them $2,000 a month in payment processing, their 15 grand went to 39 grand. That's a difference maker. That's not just hanging in there. That's like, hey, I'm starting to be able to live. So that's the pain you're solving. So think like the business owners think. Profit is not sales. When you get a paycheck, that's your profit. Now you got to pay your bills with it. Some of you going, I'm living month to month. Yeah, because it's kind of like what a business owner is like. Yeah, but they're doing $100,000 a month in sales. Yeah, but after all the bills and expenses and cost of goods and everything, they're only making $1,000. Welcome to the world of being a business owner. That's why I love what we offer for DAC agents, because there's months DAC will lose money, but there's not months where an agent will lose money. And we'll take that burden because funding goes up and down. But there's not been a year we've lost money, right? But we have bills we have to pay every month, whether funding's up or down, we got to cover them, right? It is what it is, fixed costs and variable costs called commissions. 75% of every dollar we bring in is going back out in commissions. So we're only living on the 25%. Yeah, we have fixed costs. That's business ownership. It is what it is. But I'm only sharing this as education for anyone who's never been one. When you're talking to business owners, these are the things they take home with them at night is, I'm only making 2% of my sales at the end of the day. Yeah, I can make it 5. I can get it to 5 just by passing the credit card fees. All right, guys, I don't see any other questions or comments. So let's end with that. Hopefully this has been it's enjoyable for me. I could talk about this business stuff for hours and hours.